A very good evening once again. You're watching News 9 Facebook Live with me, Adarsh Vepachedu. How much freedom is too much? True, they say you can take all the freedom you want as long as you don't interfere with the freedom of others. The buzzwords in the last few weeks have been freedom of speech. It was just a few days ago that the Chief Justice of India, S.A. Bobde, had flagged the misuse of freedom of speech on several occasions. In the latest, Attorney General KK Venugopal told the Supreme Court that airing private messages of the accused is not only prejudicial to his or her rights, but is also very dangerous for the administration of justice. Case in point, Riya Chakrabarti and how her private WhatsApp messages were leaked in the media. So has freedom of speech become the most abused freedom these days? Are media outlets taking too much freedom while reporting pending matters? Is there an urgent need to strike a balance between freedom of speech and contempt of court? To discuss some of these very pressing matters, we have with us B.N. Faninder, who is a cyber forensic and cyber law expert, joining us on the phone line. Many thanks, sir, for speaking to us. Isn't there a thin line between freedom of speech and breach of privacy? What do you make of the Attorney General's observation on airing private WhatsApp messages of an accused? I mean, rights of the accused is also a real thing, isn't it?
Definitely, Mr. Arjun. See, as far as the storyline is concerned, the WhatsApp, it might be any data belonging to the person which is private in nature, and especially if that person is being investigated for any such crime. Okay, the rights of the accused so lies that the information, how we are seeing it on the media today, it should not have been done like that.
Correct.
Okay, because the person to be declared as guilty is left for the trial before the court. Okay, otherwise what happens is that it is the total prejudice, and this is not a new thing what has been requested before the court. The application is made before the court to enforce the actual provisions so that the prejudice can be avoided by the so-called, the freedom of speech by the media houses.
Right, right. Now, Mr. Faninder, you were speaking about how in any given particular case, you are innocent until proven guilty. On those very lines, the conversation is going. But another big question that arises in my mind is, the safety and privacy of our WhatsApp chats. At the start of every particular chat, we can see this like a small notification that says that chats are encrypted. Are they really encrypted, and how easy is it for our private chats to fall into the hands of someone who could really misuse them going forward?
All right. The encryption, encryption is such a provision for those who don't understand what is encryption. It is such a firewall or a gate, you can call it as a lock, okay, which no other person cannot. No other person can access the data without having the key. So encryption acts like this, where WhatsApp, when they introduce the encryption provision, it is meant that the transmitting device should send the message to the targeted device, and between this transaction, no other person, including the WhatsApp itself, who is a service provider, can access your data. And when the WhatsApp, being a service provider himself, cannot access your data, it becomes very tough for any other person to get into the data which you are transmitting and other person is receiving. And every one of us can ensure how the encryption works on our device, where all you have to do is open your WhatsApp chat, and there is a specific, you can open any particular chat, and on the beginning of the conversation, there is when you click on your WhatsApp chat, there is the option for encryption.
Correct.
When you click on encryption, you get to see around 60-digit code, which is the encryption code. And you also have a QR code over there. And if in case you are able to scan the code of the receiving device, this device of yours will indicate it is secured communication or not. Okay, so this encryption definitely works, and it is very difficult for any other person to get access to your WhatsApp data. Okay. It is definitely encrypted. It is safe.
Okay. Now, Mr. Faninder, while on one hand we are talking about privacy, security, encrypted data, on the other hand, what do you have to say about the global government anti-encryption lobby that is, in a sense, pushing for backdoor access to all kinds of encrypted chats? You have major countries like the United States, UK, Japan, and even India that are now pushing for it. This would essentially mean that law enforcement agencies across countries can now access private chats of the said country's population. Isn't that putting the right to privacy at a great risk? What is your view?
See, in the recent days, the right to privacy was declared as a fundamental right by the Supreme Court of India.
Yeah.
And whenever we discuss about the fundamental rights or any rights for that matter, it also been said the right has to be with reasonable restrictions.
Yes.
When we say reasonable restrictions before the national security, no other rights will prevail. So when it comes to national security, the government of central government under its notification somewhere in the end of December 2018, they notified that 10 of the top agencies in India, shall have the electronic surveillance available, which also includes all this kind of WhatsApp, Facebook chats and messages, which actually means that they have the powers to understand, they have the powers to access the data which the particular device is being accessing.
Okay.
However, this works with the keywords. See, for example, if in case you start communicating with someone with a keyword like bomb, a bomb is a keyword, that's a hot listed keyword. So these kind of keywords are already they have a database of the keywords. So whenever somebody transacts any communication with these keywords, that particular message pops up and they actually further do a surveillance on your the chat messages. But by default, they have the powers to understand what is happening on your the chatting system as well as your communication system. And as far as we are not doing anything wrong, so we need not worry about, but we have to only understand that this is done with the intention of national security and nothing else.
Correct.
I do understand there has been a privacy concern.
Yes, Mr. Faninder, while on one hand you are saying that yes, it is for the larger good, it is for national security. But once again, talking about this anti-encryption move, in this particular move, eventually the law enforcement agencies, the authorities can get access to all kinds of data looking forward. Now, if we were to bring a little bit of context to this whole point, if we were to look at the Riya Chakraborty's case, obviously, how is it that a certain media outlet or media outlets managed to get WhatsApp chats of Riya Chakraborty? It is obviously because one of the investigating agencies probably gave away those WhatsApp chats. So how much, I mean, this is a pertinent question that arises. How much should we really be banking on and trusting our agencies that they will not snoop on our data unnecessarily? And again, as we were really discussing initially, you're not guilty, you're innocent until proven guilty. In such a case, how important is this, and where do you draw a line between trusting your agencies and making all your data public in a sense?
Correct. See, the question is not about the decision of making provision for the electronic surveillance, but the question is about how do we manage it?
Yes.
So, when the question about how do we manage, you should also, it's very relevant for me to mention the project NatGrid. Under the project of NatGrid, over 18 agencies in India were supposed to be having a common database, which can actually facilitate different investigations across the country. Say, for example, for revenue intelligence, they need not really know about the criminal record history of an individual, while the situation right now. But under the project of NatGrid, one person's data, should be in such a database where the revenue intelligence will also share the common database. The National Investigation Agency, the Narcotics Control Bureau, all these agencies shall usually have a common database, is what the project was meant for. However, it was supposed to be initiated in the early January this year. It did not happen. And this is probably the third time the project is getting postponed.
Why is it that it is getting postponed like this? Is there a call of dissent?
Yes, it's not called for dissent, but however, how do we manage? Just like in the case of Riya Chakraborty, how do we know who leaked out the information?
Correct.
While the data is there with different people, different agencies, whom do you hold accountable?
You can't point fingers at one particular agency.
Correct. Until and unless we get the accountability of that data, who should be holding it, why they are holding it, for how long they will be holding it, unless we get clarity on that, we can't blame anyone. However, definitely we should appreciate the media people where they have better, hands-on to the evidences across different investigations, more than in some cases where our law enforcement agencies would have them personally.
Maybe.
Okay, so I mean, the situation right now is, should we really appreciate or should we really criticize that?
But
appreciation should
Mr.
definitely be
Fanidar,
done.
apologies for the intervention. The Supreme Court is not really liking it, in a sense that we were just discussing as to how a few media houses may have more information, more inputs, and more proof than a few investigating agencies. But the court is saying that is not correct. If a matter is sub judice, if you still have a case being heard in the court, then no media outlet can really go out there and put out certain kind of evidence or proof that they may have come across. It is not correct, is what the Attorney General is saying.
Collection of the data is not wrong.
Okay.
But using the data,
Airing it, essentially.
without handing over to the investigation officer,
Yes.
or without the permission of being airing that particular evidence itself
Correct.
is wrong. Okay, so while the only expectation from the Supreme Court on the media houses is that to act more responsible than how the media houses are playing right now. If in case you have good evidence, instead of using that evidence for gaining TRPs on the screen, use it for effective law enforcement of the investigation. Okay, that's what the Supreme Court expects, and that's what the code of law is. So, whenever there is an investigation going on, whenever the matter is before the court, any such information, evidence, whatever it is, it should not be discussed in public, and it doesn't affect the freedom of speech. While we discuss about freedom of speech, there is no restriction of the media house to say there has been some evidence gathered, this might lead to so and so, so and so. That is the freedom of speech, but not exactly airing what they have and having a debate on that. I was seeing some of the
Because
media
that is intervention into right to privacy, isn't it?
Correct. That is the violation of right to privacy. And that is the question about freedom of speech.
Yes.
One of the media house was holding the CDR call records of the particular number,
Yeah.
and the big question is how did the media house got the CDR, which is supposed to be only handled by the law enforcement agencies.
Yeah.
This is where this question comes in, and this definitely is the appropriate question at the right time, because if not this, there might be some definite damage which might happen to the investigation protocol. Ultimately, media houses will end up blaming and criticizing the investigation, while they don't understand the contribution, how they're actually making it for damaging the whole thing.
Oh yes, it indeed is a deep subject which has a lot of elements really coming together. Many thanks, Mr. Fanidar, for joining us and for sharing with us your insights on what Attorney General of India KK Venugopal has told the Supreme Court just a few hours ago. He went ahead and said that airing of WhatsApp messages of any accused in any case is very dangerous, and it really messes with the process of judiciary, of justice. So yes, we'll have to wait and see as to how a few of us really mend our ways, and how a rule that already exists across the country is brought into effect. This obviously to ensure that while we are enjoying our freedom of speech, we are not really trampling on someone else's right to privacy. If you've liked the information that we have shared with you this evening, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to News 9 on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Many thanks for joining us.